UPSC prep got you feeling like you're constantly racing to catch up with the news.
Yeah, I hear you all. It's a lot to keep up with, for sure. And today, we're going deep on something that's definitely making waves and is definitely going to be on the UPSC radar. All the controversy around Elon Musk and his Grok AI, that chatbot he's been, hyping up.
You got it. And this isn't just another tech story that fades away. This thing hits on some pretty big themes that are going to pop up all over your UPSC syllabus.
Hmm.
We're talking governance in this crazy digital world, the whole power of AI and where it could all go wrong and just how information itself is changing right before our eyes. Big stuff.
Couldn't agree more. We're digging into the nitty-gritty of what Grok AI has been saying, what's got everyone so riled up, and what it all means for holding AI accountable and, regulating this stuff. Especially here in India, we've been poring over the latest reports from the Indian Express and the BBC to give you the full picture, as much as we can at this point, because it's a story that's still unfolding. And for those of you hardcore UPSC aspirants out there, our mission here is to sift through all the headlines and the noise. We want to pull out the really important stuff, the core insights, the stuff you absolutely got to understand about AI and where it fits in the world, the whole question of who's responsible when things go sideways, and the impact this all has on society. We're aiming to connect all of this directly to your exam prep because, hey, that's why you're here, right?
Right. So let's jump right in. First things first, just in case anyone needs a refresher. What exactly is Grok AI and what makes it stand out from the crowd? What's the big deal?
All right. So Grok AI is an artificial intelligence chatbot. Pretty straightforward so far, right? But here's the thing. It's developed by this company called XAI, which is part of Elon Musk's X platform, what used to be Twitter. So what makes Grok different is that it's got this direct pipeline to all the data flowing through X, and it's happening in real time. Unlike a lot of other AI models that are trained on these static data sets frozen in time, Grok is plugged into the live feed of social media, so it's constantly evolving.
So it's not just looking at old news and stale info. It's right there in the mix of what's happening on X right now, which is both fascinating and, I gotta say, a little bit unnerving.
So let's talk about these controversial responses that have been popping up. What's been going on there?
Yeah, so this is where things get interesting. The controversy really exploded when Grok started spitting out responses that a lot of people found, well, offensive and biased. There are reports out there that Grok actually labeled some conservative users, and get this, even Musk himself in some cases, as spreaders of misinformation.
Whoa, that's pretty wild. And I even saw something about Grok using a seriously offensive Hindi expletive in one instance. It seems like some of the stuff it's been saying has been, to put it mildly, inflammatory and totally unexpected. Definitely. And these kinds of outputs have really stirred up this huge debate about a fundamental question. When an AI chatbot, something like Grok, starts generating this kind of biased or offensive content, who's actually responsible? Is it the developers at XAI, the folks who built it? Is it the X platform itself for incorporating it so deeply into its system? Or could you even trace it back to the massive data sets it was trained on? It gets complicated.
Yeah, it really does. And here's where it gets even more intriguing, because Elon Musk has been pretty upfront about his vision for Grok. He's not trying to create just another AI assistant that plays it safe and neutral. He wants something different.
You're absolutely right. Musk has been pretty clear about positioning Grok as this kind of, well, anti-woke AI. He said straight out that he wants it to be a counter to other big AI models like ChatGPT and Gemini, which he sees as having a left-leaning bias. And he's not shy about wanting Grok to be what he calls spicy and less filtered, not held back by what he sees as too much political correctness. He wants it to push buttons.
And then there's this whole unhinged mode that's available to premium X users. That's a pretty bold move. It seems like that's a direct result of Musk's philosophy, right?
100%. Unhinged mode is like a signal flare to users, telling them, hey, buckle up, you're about to enter a zone where anything goes. It's basically a way of saying they can expect Grok to be even less restrained, potentially throwing out even more controversial or provocative responses. And when you combine that with the fact that it can tap into real-time X data and is so tightly woven into the platform that users can tag it directly in their posts, well, you can start to see how this could really amplify certain types of content, for better or worse.
It's a bit of a Pandora's box situation, isn't it? And it's precisely this integration with X that has a lot of experts sounding the alarm. It's not just about isolated incidents of Grok saying something off color. It's about the bigger picture.
You hit the nail on the head, and this is something you definitely want to understand for your UPSC prep. The concern among experts is that with Grok having this unfiltered voice on a platform as massive and influential as X, the potential for unchecked AI-generated content to spread like wildfire is huge. There's a real fear that this could turbocharge the spread of misinformation, leading to real-world consequences. Think social unrest fueled by false information, or even worse. The speed and sheer volume of information that flows through X, now potentially amplified by AI content generation, is a force to be reckoned with. It's a recipe for unpredictability.
So we've got this AI that can see some pretty questionable things operating on a platform known for its rapid fire and sometimes chaotic information flow. Which brings us to the really tough question. Legally speaking, who's responsible for what Grok puts out there? Where do you even begin to untangle that mess?
This takes us straight into the legal gray area of AI accountability. It's a bit of a minefield, to be honest. Right now, you've got these big internet platforms, the giants like X, Meta, YouTube, and so on. They're all operating under the protection of what are called safe harbor laws. These laws basically protect platforms from being held legally liable for the content their users post. It's like a shield.
So just to be clear, if someone goes on X and spreads a completely bogus rumor, X itself isn't automatically on the hook legally.
That's the idea behind Safe Harbor. It's about protecting platforms from being sued for everything their users say or do. But here's the multi-million-dollar question, and it's a question that keeps legal experts up at night. Do these existing protections, these safe harbor laws, cover content that's generated by AI tools like Grok that are built into the platform? That's the great unknown. Nobody has a clear answer yet, and it's a huge legal battleground.
And it's messy because Grok isn't your typical user. It's not a human being posting stuff. It's an AI that learned how to communicate by processing mountains of data, including a ton of user-generated content from X itself. So if it says something harmful, and you could argue that the root of that harm came from human data somewhere along the line, how on earth do you pinpoint who's accountable? It's like a game of legal hot potato.
Precisely. It forces us to really grapple with these fundamental questions of authorship and responsibility in the age of AI. If what Grok says is essentially a reflection of all the human-generated data it's absorbed, can you really say with absolute certainty that the developers or the platform are to blame for every single potentially harmful statement? It's not that simple. Some legal scholars have even made this analogy, and I love it. It's like trying to sue the ocean for being wet. It illustrates how incredibly difficult it is to clearly assign blame when you're dealing with such a complex system.
That analogy is brilliant. It really puts things in perspective. Now, let's zoom in on the situation here in India. We all know that freedom of expression is a cornerstone of our democracy. It's a fundamental right. So how does an AI like Grok fit into that whole framework? It's not a human being with rights, right?
You're right, it's not that straightforward. In India, the right to freedom of speech and expression is absolutely essential. It's enshrined in our constitution, no question. But there are reasonable restrictions, of course. Now, the thing is, traditionally, this right applies to human beings, to individuals. We all understand that. But Grok's responses, they're ultimately coming from its algorithms, its programming, and the data it's been fed. So this whole concept of AI free speech, well, it's murky territory. It's a really complex and debatable idea. An algorithm doesn't have beliefs or opinions in the same way a person does. It's a different beast altogether.
So if Grok says something offensive or biased, it's not exercising its right to free speech in the way we typically think about it.
Exactly. What you're seeing is the output of its programming and the data it's been trained on. It's not expressing a personal opinion or belief. And this circles back to that crucial question that policymakers, and you as a UPSC aspirant, need to consider. Who's holding the reins here? Who's ultimately responsible for what these AI-generated outputs are saying? Is it XAI, the team that designed Grok with these unfiltered capabilities? Or does the buck stop with X, the platform that decided to integrate it so deeply and potentially boost its reach and influence?
It's a tough one. It feels like the lines of responsibility are incredibly blurred, and I can only imagine the headaches this is giving governments all over the world as they try to figure out how to handle this.
You're not wrong. It's a regulatory nightmare, and it's a global issue. Trying to figure out the right level of accountability for the people who develop and deploy AI is a massive challenge. Do you hold the high-level engineers who built the model responsible? Or maybe the people who put together and labeled those huge training data sets? Nobody has the magic answer yet. There's no consensus, which makes it even more complex.
It's a whole new world out there, that's for sure. But have there been any legal cases, any precedents that might shed some light on how to approach these sticky situations? I feel like I read something recently about an airline and a chatbot. They got into some hot water.
You're probably thinking about the Air Canada case. That's a pretty relevant and interesting one to look at. It's actually quite recent. Basically, Air Canada was ordered by a court to honor a refund policy that its AI chatbot had given out, even though the policy was incorrect. The airline tried to argue that it shouldn't be held responsible for the chatbot's mistake. Hey, it's just a bot. But the court wasn't buying it. They held Air Canada accountable.
And what's really important here is that the court basically treated the AI chatbot as a representative of the company, at least in that specific customer service context. So the chatbot's words were, in a sense, the company's words. It's a pretty significant ruling.
It is. And for your UPSC prep, here's the takeaway. The court's decision suggests that in certain situations, particularly when you're using an AI to provide specific information or services on behalf of a company or an organization, the outputs of that AI can be directly attributed to that entity. It's like the AI is an extension of the company itself. But, and this is big but, the level of responsibility that's assigned is probably going to depend heavily on the context. An AI chatbot dispensing medical advice is going to be held to a much, much higher standard than an AI just chatting away on a social media platform like X. The stakes are different. The potential for harm is different.
Makes sense. The context matters a lot. So looking ahead, what are some of the potential solutions or frameworks that are being floated out there to address this whole legal and ethical jungle that we're in with AI? How do we even begin to create rules for this stuff?
Well, there's no easy fix, that's for sure. But some experts have put forward the idea of creating a specific safe harbor framework that's designed for AI developers. This framework could potentially give them some protection from liability, but there's a catch, of course. They would have to prove that they've followed certain due diligence standards during the development and deployment of their AI models. This might involve things like having clear end-user license agreements, EULAs in place, and establishing user conduct policies that specifically address how their AI systems can be used. You know, kind of like the terms of service we see with software and online platforms, it's about setting boundaries and expectations from the get-go.
And if we bring this back to the bigger picture for our UPSC aspirants out there, the whole Grok controversy really shines a spotlight on the wider challenges of regulating AI, doesn't it? It's like a case study in how complicated this is all going to get.
Absolutely. It's a wake-up call, really. This whole incident highlights a bunch of critical issues that regulators around the world, including here in India, are wrestling with. It's about figuring out how to effectively combat the spread of AI-generated misinformation, how to draw clear lines of accountability for the stuff AI puts out there, the growing challenges of content moderation in a world where AI is creating content, and just the overall need for strong safeguards throughout the entire life cycle of AI technology, from development to deployment. It's a big, messy puzzle.
And it's interesting to think about how the central government here in India withdrew its AI advisory last year. It tells you something about the complexity of this issue and the delicate balance they're trying to strike between promoting innovation and putting the necessary oversight in place. It's a tough spot to be in. This technology is evolving so quickly, it's hard to keep up, let alone create rules for it.
It really is. And the Grok controversy serves as this timely reminder that the challenges are immense, and there's this urgent need to find an approach that walks that tightrope between encouraging responsible innovation, letting this technology develop and thrive, while also putting up guardrails to protect society from the potential risks that come with these increasingly powerful AI systems. It's not about stifling progress, it's about making sure progress doesn't come at too high a cost.
So for everyone listening who's prepping for the UPSC, what are the big takeaways from all of this? What do you absolutely need to remember about the Grok AI situation?
The key thing to grasp here, the thing that will really benefit you in your UPSC preparation, is understanding that this whole Grok controversy is a perfect example of how intertwined these cutting-edge technologies like AI are with fundamental principles like freedom of speech. It also highlights the huge responsibility that falls on the shoulders of these powerful platforms and the urgent need to create adaptable regulatory frameworks in this increasingly digital world we live in. These are themes that cut across various parts of your syllabus, from governance and technology policy to ethical considerations and how to assess the impact of all this on society. Being able to analyze these connections, how these things relate to each other, is going to be incredibly valuable, not just for tackling those mains questions, but also for developing a well-rounded perspective for your interview. You want to be able to show that you're not just memorizing facts, but that you're thinking critically about the bigger picture.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And this brings up a really crucial point for everyone listening and studying for the UPSC, As AI becomes more and more integrated into our online world, our platforms, our daily lives, how do we as a society strike that crucial balance? How do we make sure we're supporting innovation, letting this technology advance, while also ensuring that there's accountability, that someone's responsible when things go wrong, and that we're doing everything we can to minimize the potential harm? That's a question we all need to be thinking about, especially in a country like India, with its incredible diversity and dynamic information ecosystem. It's not an easy question, but it's one worth pondering.
Absolutely. And on that note, I hope this deep dive has given you a clearer, more nuanced understanding of this really important issue. It's complex, it's evolving, and it's something we're all going to be grappling with for a long time to come.
For sure. And for more analysis like this, stuff that's tailored specifically for your UPSC prep, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. If you've got questions, fire away. We're here to help. Just remember, our conversation today was based on reporting from the Indian Express and the BBC, two really solid sources, and I encourage you to check out their coverage for yourself to get the full picture. Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep those brains working.
That's the key. Until next time, happy studying.
And best of luck with your UPSC journey. We're all in this together.
We are, and we're here to support you every step of the way.
See you in the next deep dive.